So sometimes in foreign policy, there are some structural impediments to movements. For example, many years ago, when the United States at first decided to renew relations with China, they had to accede to a one China policy. There couldn't be Taiwan and China happening at the same time. Also, for example, a much more ambitious foreign policy in Africa needed the United States to denounce apartheid. Well, with Latin America, we have two fundamental structural issues. One is the issue of immigration, which everybody knows about, but it's a big issue in Latin America. And the other one is the issue of Cuba. And there's been lots going on in the issue of Cuba over the last couple of months. The entire cadre of presidents of Latin America traveled to Cuba recently to have a summit meeting which included the United Nations Secretary General and the Secretary General of the OAS. Everybody went to Cuba to talk about joint plans. The only people who weren't invited to that meeting was the United States and Canada. The European Union just yesterday has decided to expand its relations and renew its relations with Cuba, both in terms of trade and commerce and political affairs. Here in the United States, there are a number of really important politicians who have suddenly come out in favor of normalizing relations with Cuba. Former Governor Crist of Florida, and he's running again, has come out in favor just this weekend about normalizing relations with Cuba. You have former Senator Bob Graham, who went to Cuba, and he was a very virulent pro-embargo position, but he went to Cuba to talk about joint issues on oil spills and coordinating policy on oil. And even Cuban exiles like the Fanjul family have said that they'd be willing to invest in Cuba for the right thing. So given all of this movement, we decided that it was time to consult the most important stakeholder of all, which is the American people. After all, Cuba policy has basically been made by Cuban Americans living in Miami and in Washington. And so it was time to look a little further and talk to American people and ask them what did they think about modifying, changing, keeping the same, keeping it where it was. Where did Cuba policy have to go? Should we normalize? Shouldn't we normalize? And what were their opinions on the subject?